Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, October 16th is now in session. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Liner?
Here.
Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Sampson?
Here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Will we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father and our God, as we humbly come before your presence. Oh, Father, we just want to thank you, Father, for blessing this country in a very special way. But, Father, we thank you, Father, for the people, all the people in Craven County and all over the world who are working together to make things better for each other. But, Father, we ask that our send your spirit down, Father, to guide and direct our elected officials in the way they should go. Because if there's ever been a time that we need you, Father, we need you now. But Father, we ask that I will bless all those that have been in the different storms this year, Father. Oh, Father, bless them that they may be able to recoup some things that they have lost. Because we know that you're the giver of all good gifts, Father. And we know that you're able to take care of everything. Oh, merciful Father, we ask that's a special blessing for all those tonight, Father, today, that stand in the need of prayer. Oh, Father, we realize, Father, that we can't do anything until you come. But, Father, with you, Father, we can do all things. We just thank you this morning, Father, for blessing all our families in a special way. We thank you for blessing the family of Craven County, Father. Oh, Father, because you've been so good to us, Father. Help us, Father, that we may continue to reach out and help those that's in need. We have so many in our communities, even in the world, Father, that are suffering from different things that is happening to them. Bless our young people, Father. It seems like, Father, Satan is trying to steal all the young people, Father. Oh, Father, but we know you're still in charge, and you have everything in your hands. We ask these other blessings in Jesus' name we pray and we count it all done. Amen.
Amen. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, nay. The ayes have it. Next is a community development block grant public hearing. Reed Whitesell.
Chairman, good morning.
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 2 weeks ago, we went through this in great detail, so I'm just going to take some time today to give a little background and to go over the budget, because there's been a revision in the budget that's in the public hearing notice. This is the second of two public hearings required for the county to apply for $32.5 million of community development block grant, disaster recovery assistance that was made available to the state from HUD following Hurricane Matthew in October 2016. The great majority of that money was allocated to four counties, I believe Lenore, Cumberland, Edgecombe, and Robinson, where there was the most severe damage from the storm, or at least perceived to be the most severe damage from the storm. So this $32.5 million is the balance to be allocated among 42 counties, of which Craven is one, and I think Craven is in a very competitive position for the funds. We are applying for up to $1 million. And the reason I feel you're competitive is because the county staff conducted an outreach last winter and has 50 applications from probable low and moderate income households that received damage during Hurricane Matthew, and I think, Don, majority of those are in the Vanceboro area. At least the community meeting I attended, there was in Vanceboro. I know that. The county conducted a number of meetings, but that appears to be where the greatest damage was. And that is where the majority of the applications for assistance we have. The budget that was in the public hearing notice indicated $600,000 for rehab, 300 for reconstruction, and 100 for program administration. We discovered during discussions with the state that the maximum administration cost is 5%. Therefore, the final budget that will be submitted to the state this week, the applications are due Friday. We'll have a $50,000 program administration budget, $325 for reconstruction, which is new construction of existing, and demolition of existing dwellings that are too badly damaged to rehabilitate, and $625 for rehab. So we moved the $50,000 overage from admin into the two construction line items. We anticipate, assuming that we'll have to elevate at least some of the rehab houses because of your flood damage prevention ordinance that requires anything with improvements exceeding 50% of tax value to be fully mitigated in terms of your freeboard and so on and so forth, that we'll do 8 or 9 rehabilitation/elevations and 3 new constructions, and we will not be using modular homes. That has been the county's wishes going back to, I want to say 2002 or so, that we've been doing new stick-built construction for these scattered site type projects in lieu of off-frame modular. We don't expect any displacement from the project. The people that we would reconstruct are living there already, were displaced from their homes already, so we'll build a new house and they'll move right back in, and there will be relocation assistance, temporary relocation assistance if people have to leave their homes during the construction process. Again, the application is due the 20th. I've already completed the draft, and my staff is reviewing it. There's a couple, I think, forms, certifications that Don will mail today to our office in Wilmington, and we don't expect any problems getting the application in. And again, I feel it's very competitive based on my discussions with the staff. And it appears, everything that my firm knows and everything that Don's staff knows, that this might be the only opportunity that the county has to receive funding, disaster-related funding for Matthew, as we discussed a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay? All the ayes have it. We're now in public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, nobody has signed up to speak in public hearing today.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on Community Development Block Grant? Mr. James?
I printed out today's agenda. Unfortunately, left it in my car. That's why I had to step out for a minute. I'm Hal James. I live at 305 Calico Drive. I didn't find these numbers anywhere. He went through them so fast I wasn't really sure what they are. But he said there's a draft application, and I haven't seen the draft application.
Well, I believe what he said was that these were new figures. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, I understand that. But
Well, we don't have a copy of them either.
well, do you have a copy of the draft application?
You have the,
And you plan to vote on it without reviewing it,
No.
or haven't made it to the public? That's all.
it's
Thanks.
just for action. Public input.
Make a motion to go out of public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of public hearing. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Approved minutes, tax releases, road addition requests, and proclamation National Friends of the Library Week. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you. I see the ABC board isn't here yet. I guess we're going to skip that and go to the next item, which would be the Health Department. New fee recommendations. Scott Harrelson.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, sir. First up are a couple of fees that we were recommending for your consideration. The first one, let's see, is actually a toe splint. This is something that we don't do very frequently, but ran across, and we gather our cost or the Medicaid rate being $30.55. We propose a rate of $31. We normally round up for our fees. And then the second is a urine test for chlamydia. Our costs are a bit more than the Medicaid rate of $31.18. Our costs are $32.52. Proposed rate $33.
Okay. I guess we're going to take these both together, or are you doing one at a time?
We can, pleasure of the board,
Oh,
as long
let's
as
do
they're
it one at a time.
hopefully approved.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? And there's no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Leiter?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up is a request for a budget amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we took them one, we separated the two of them.
Yeah.
So we need a second vote on the second
sorry.
item.
So,
Yeah.
I'll move adoption.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Roll call vote on the second.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Leiter?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
thank you. Request a budget amendment for some end-of-year purchases based on activity from the last fiscal year. We had a good year financially in the department, and we have a request list here of items, anything from painting the lobby hallway, some new furniture, waiting room furniture for our Havelock location. A little bit busier there than we anticipated between the uptick in the WIC clients and the primary care. We need more seating. Also have some lab equipment and a refrigerator freezer for and a HemoQ machine to test blood iron levels, and also some additional items, a mini split air conditioning unit to help cool the vaccine room, and also a monitoring system to let us know if any of the temps go out of range for the vaccine stored at the Havelock location. Number of items such as laptops and basically just things that the staff have a need for the upcoming year. Total of the list is $36,884. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of these items.
Any commissioners have a question?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Additional line.
Scott, this money is coming out of your revenue generator that was left over from last year's funding and not coming out of your general funds or any of the general funds from the capital, is that correct?
Yeah. So in past years, what we've done, Commissioner Leiter, is because some of Scott's revenue comes in at the last moment.
Right.
Certainly want to see how the year ended out. We had a very good year with this Medicaid reimbursement, Scott.
sir.
It was over and expected because we got some previous year money that had been held back. I believe some 2013 money. What we've done is we typically come back and some things that we may have been on the fence on at budget that just couldn't justify then, obviously trying to balance the budget with the tax rate. When that revenue comes in, we do go back and have a conversation with Scott. This list of 36,000 is significantly smaller than we've had in previous years. We funded I believe last year about 150,000, Scott. But these are things that then Scott comes and meets with staff and we justify and make sure are needed.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Marks?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your support of our departments.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hodges went and checked with ABC Board. They were under the impression this was a night meeting, so they will not be attending. They will have to reschedule.
Okay, thank you. Department matters courts, public hearing follow-up. Kelly Walker.
Good morning. The North Carolina Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division released the grant applications for fiscal year 2019. Each required a public hearing, and applications for those projects have to be submitted by November 3rd. A public hearing was held on October 2nd, at which time the approval to proceed with the 5311 Community Transportation Program grant and the Consolidated Capital Grant application was received. Further discussion of the Mobility Management Grant application was scheduled for today. First, to restate the information about the request for the Mobility Management Grant, the need for a mobility manager was identified in the most recent Transit Development Plan. We understand this is requesting to apply for funding for a position that does not exist. We are not asking for a commitment to create this position, but approval to move forward to attempt to obtain funding for the position should the new position be approved during the fiscal year 2019 budget process. This is a competitive application. If approved, 80% of the funding would be federal, 10% state, and 10% local. However, counties are required to be prepared to cover the entire 20% match should funding not be available at the state level. Additional information was requested to be provided at this meeting regarding the source of the funding for the Mobility Management Grant. The federal portion, 80% of this grant request, would be from 5310 Elderly and Disabled Individuals Transportation Program provided to NCDOT PTD for distribution to eligible recipients on a competitive basis. According to the APTA primer on transit funding fiscal year 2013 to 2015, quote, federal transit programs are funded from two sources: the Mass Transit Account, MTA, of the Highway Trust Fund, which HTF, and from the general revenues of the Treasury, also called general funds. The Surface Transportation Assistance Act of 1982, STAA, created the MTA as a separate account for the HTF for accrual of a portion of revenues from the federal motor fuel tax for transit uses. Motor fuel taxes for highways accrue in the highway account, HA, of the HTF. Funds from highway-related excise taxes other than motor fuel taxes accrue only in the highway account. Until 1999, unexpended balances from the MTA grew interest revenue. Unexpended balances are created when the FTA obligates funds, that is, commits to fund an eligible transit project, such as a bus garage, but does not actually pay for the project until it is completed. The unexpended balance is the money that has been accumulated to make that payment when it comes due, plus any revenue collected but not yet apportioned. The unexpended balances were invested by law in federal securities. The interest, however, was a paper exchange between general revenues and HTF. TEA 21 eliminated this investment for both the MTA and HA beginning fiscal year 1999. From that time until fiscal year 2010, only tax revenues were credited to the HTF. Public Law 111-147, enacted on March 18, 2010, reinstated the investment of unexpended balances in federal securities and restored funds not accrued from fiscal year 1999 to fiscal year 2010, end quote. Transfers of funds to the HTF from the general fund and leaking underground storage, LUST fund, became necessary, and again quote, because the income generated by HTF taxes and fees were not adequate to fund the highway and transit grant programs, end quote. So in other words, the federal funding for transit programs comes from motor fuel taxes, highway-related excise taxes, investment and interest revenue on unexpended balances, and transfer from the general fund and leaking underground storage fund when the before-mentioned are not adequate. The North Carolina Department of Transportation website, Finance and Budget section, explains the state funding sources for all modes of transportation. Quote, approximately 50% of state transportation funding is based on revenue from the motor fuel tax, 30% comes from driver and vehicle fees collected by the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles, and 20% from the highway use tax on vehicle transfer titles.
Okay. And I'll point out that we're not asking for a commitment by the commissioners to create the position, but approval to move forward to attempt to obtain funding for the position. Do I have a motion to apply for the mobility management grant?
So move.
A second? Second. Discussion.
Does
Commissioner Liner.
we move forward with this? We get the funding. This comes back before this board for determination whether we move forward with a hire or not, correct?
Correct.
Okay, my other questions don't apply since.
Yeah, just to bring that up, this would be, if we were to adopt at a later date, the funding part, which is $256,000 in the first year, and I believe in the fifth year, it goes up to $456,000, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it?
That sounds right.
Okay. So whether we approve this or not is going to create a lot of discussion at that time. Yes, Commissioner Jones.
Two questions. First, let's say this board come 2019 did not decide to take that funding to create this position. In your opinion, what would that look like for us in applying for future grants if we denied taking this money? I mean, you think it was going to hurt us not to accept it, or what's your opinion?
Well, I deferred to the state and asked the state that question because that was a concern as well. And their recommendation was to apply for it. And if the position was not created, then we just would not file for reimbursement for the amount of the grant, and it would go back to the state.
And we're applying for this position because of, it was identified in the Transit Development Plan as a recommendation of something that we needed to do. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the last question would be, you have in here, which was presented, that the mobility manager would be able to serve both the rural and urban areas. My concern is, I want to make sure that, and this was for discussion for later on if we decide to do it, but that this individual is going to be utilized for rural areas too. It's not going to just be for the urban areas.
Correct, and that was another reason for consideration of this grant was by getting it, if we were to get approved for this, then the funding is split 60% rural and 40% urban. If we did not pursue that opportunity or get approved for that opportunity and chose later to use 5307 urban fundings for the position, then that position would be 100% dedicated to the urbanized area.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman.
so we've got the Transit Development Plan. How much of that Transit Development Plan is dedicated toward serving the needs of the rural community?
Very little,
Very little.
very little.
And the reason for having this position is out of demand for the presumption that this board will accept the Transit Development Plan, correct?
If, there's several recommendations in it, but assuming that those recommendations were decided to be followed or accepted, then yes.
So if a commissioner, for instance, were today opposed to the transit development plan, there wouldn't be any reason for that commissioner to want to then also authorize the hiring of this position.
That is correct. But if that is decided later, or that the transit development plan recommendations do want to be pursued, then this is a lost opportunity for funding for that. That does not have to be accessed at a later time. So it's giving you opportunity to have the funding available should you choose to access the funding, and assuming the state approves the application.
Correct, but if a commissioner is of the opinion that the transit development plan is not dedicated to meeting the needs of, I can't say all the constituents of Craven County, but certainly a large geographic area of Craven County, rather it's just focused in on a small portion, then authorizing government to expand to just service that need could be problematic. So that's more of a statement than it is anything. Can you respond? Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have a couple of questions,
Commissioner Tyson.
comments, Kelly. Is this position needed now? Do we need it with our current level of service that CARTS provides?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's not needed now. This is needed in anticipation of, as Commissioner Dacey and Minor said, if we were to go forward with the implementation of the transit plan, which is essentially enhanced loop routes for the urban areas.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Right, correct.
Okay.
For the
Which
job,
we've
for the
had.
job duties that are in this, yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that this would be a lost opportunity if we didn't act on this now. Is that, this isn't a recurring type of funding in this, in these grants?
It's not guaranteed from year to year, and it is only a
All right,
one-year.
so next year, it's not guaranteed that the position that we create would be, this is a one-time, potential one-time funding source. So it's a-
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It may or may not be available the following year. And if it was decided with the fiscal year 19 budget planning to move forward, then the opportunity to obtain this funding for fiscal year 2019 has passed. It would then be potentially 2020 before we would know whether or not it would be available.
Okay. So in essence, we're looking to, and I know we don't, I think I heard you say that if we approve this today and the fund was, and then we decided not to go forward with the transit development plan, then we just wouldn't get the money, or the money would be returned, or you'd use the money for something else?
We would not use the money for anything else. We would just not file for reimbursement from the state, and then the state would do what they do with unexpended funds. And the example they gave to me was if we have a grant that, I'm just going to throw out a number, 100,000, and we end up only using 80,000 of it. We file for reimbursement for that 80,000, that 20,000 sits there, and then whatever the state does with those leftover funds, the same thing would be true with this. And that was one of the things that we did, like I said, ask the state about, because it was a concern of how it would look if the county did not spend funds that were approved, or what would happen to those funds if we would be keeping another system from using them and then they go away. And that is not the case.
Mr. Chairman, could I make an
Yes, go ahead.
observation? So we've reviewed the TDP with the board. It's certainly an aggressive plan, as Kelly, or I think you mentioned, Chairman Mark. It is an additional expense on the county, potentially as much as $500,000 in year 5, because what it does is it grows the fixed route, the loop system, from 2 routes to 5 routes, and it expands the number of stops.
Which would cause a tax increase.
It could, potentially. I mean, I certainly don't see $500,000 in revenue available now for something like this. Obviously, there's opportunities to go and pursue it. I think what the board could do, if you're on the fence about the plan, year 1, which is the year we're in now, is really a year of study, looking at what we have, making what we have better. Kelly's already instituted a fare box system. Commissioner Tyson saw we've added some signage on our vans, all things that are included in the current budget with the current grants that we have. This opportunity will go away in November, but I think it'll be there next year. I mean, I certainly can't predict the state budget in the future, but I think it's an opportunity, and I think it's been there for several years already, Kelly. So you may be missing a place in time to do this, but you may have a better plan as you get to next year, as you work through this year. You may be in a better place. And if you choose not to expand the routes, I think Kelly was pretty clear, we certainly don't need the position. But if you are going to move forward at some point, Kelly will need the extra help to start implementing those things as we move forward. So you could wait and see for a year if that's something the board would like.
Thank you for clearing that. All right, we have a motion, second. Let's do a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Liner?
No.
Commissioner McCabe?
No.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
No.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Nope.
Chairman Mark?
No.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Good work.
Department matters, Department of Social Services, and I see Jeff Merritt is here.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Today, we bring before you two budget amendments. The first budget amendment pertains to unspent donation funds at the senior center. I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding those.
Okay, that's, do I have a motion on?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion. Commissioner Liner.
This is strictly donations.
Yes.
We're talking, the $2,050, this is strictly the donation funds.
Yes, strictly donations from individuals and groups that we receive that from outside of the senior center and outside our budget.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's Walmart and Red Cross and a few others in there.
Yeah, we even had a anonymous $5,000
I saw
donation.
that.
I think that's why the senior center one is so high, so the senior program one, so that's why that number's so high.
Do we need a roll call vote on that?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe? Yes. Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. And our second budget amendment pertains to higher than expected revenues that we receive, and we're asking for that money to be used to purchase some equipment pertaining to our upcoming rollout with NC Fast with Child Welfare Services, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to that as well.
Okay, do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Liner.
You're asking here for 31 additional iPads. How many people do you have working this program?
Well, we have 37 total supervisors and social workers in our child welfare division. That includes one supervisor, I believe 3 workers at our Havelock Center, and we have 2 adoptions workers and a supervisor at Hope Family Resource Center, and the rest of those are housed in our local Department of Social Services on News Boulevard. And we also budgeted, I think, 2 extra iPads in case one's become broken and we need to replace them.
Now, what are they using now, and what's going to happen to them?
Well, we're not using any mobile devices. We currently do not have an automated case management system, which is what NC Fast will be. We're expected to roll out with our first phase in January. And with that, we have the capability to access a case management system. And with that case management system, over time, once cases start to be put in, we're able to look at those cases in the field. We're able to go out and, I equate it to something Kent said. If we went out to one of your homes for a child welfare matter and talk with your family, what we'd be able to do is that we'd be able to go and type those notes up and put that into the system so everyone could see it right then. We'd also be able to, if someone got new cases while out in the field, they'd be able to take that case and see it and could actually go out into that home instead of having to maybe drive back to the agency and pick up what we now have that's put on paper and go out and start and assess that case. So we don't have anything like that now. We're really working in an antiquated business model, and so the state, this has been something coming for some time. I think NC Fast has been talked about for probably 15 years or so, and finally the time's here. So we're moving towards that more automated case management system. Will help us hopefully be more efficient and also, most importantly, better protect children in our county.
Any other discussion? Are you finished there? I'm sorry.
I got more, but I don't know how to.
No, go ahead,
process
go ahead.
things. I guess this is more for the manager and IT. I mean, it just seems, I understand it's a grant. It's coming from the state to do it for a program they're putting out, which is surprising. They're even giving us any money to do it. But not all of these 31 are in the field at the same time. Is that correct?
Not at the same time, but, when we go out, and majority of our contact is out in homes and, in the environments that family are in. So I would say at the conservative estimate, probably 50% of the time, they're out in the field, and this will allow them to be out in the field more, considering they're able to take their work more with them.
Commissioner Weiner, I think the key here is this is a mandated program. The state is going to make us do this. The only mobile device that they have spec'd for this new NC Fast for the child services is an iPad. Because we certainly went and priced and tried to shop, Surface or a Samsung or whatever. They wrote the program for an iPad, and that's the spec. So this unexpected revenue is not a grant. This is additional TANF money. It gave us the opportunity, outside of coming to you next budget year and saying, hey, we got to have 31 of these units, trying to deal with it now. We did budget, Jeff, I believe, six units as a test in your current budget. We were just going to implement 6 and go ahead and get those out there. This just provides us an opportunity to do something we're going to have to do anyway, a little sooner.
We're just about holding federal money that went to the state. The state sent it to us, and we're just the holders, and now we're sending it out.
NC Fast, while it has modernized what Jeff does, has not come devoid of expense to counties. If you remember 2 budgets, we had to hire 6 people. We've had tremendous overtime, contractual time over the years, implementing the different phases of a state mandated program. This is just a small, this is a minute part of what we've already expended. But the good news in this, Jeff, is that with some of the issues that have happened statewide with child welfare, that we'll be able to immediately know notes while we're in a house. We'll be able to access those files and see them versus sort of going in blindly. So there is a good news story to this. And he has the capability of taking video and photographs of situations while you're there and implementing those directly back to a supervisor who can then help that employee make a decision.
Exactly, and as Jack said, we're dealing with more transient families, especially in the age of social media. I think I spoke a little bit about it at Opioid Forum. People connect with other people, and it's amazing how they get connected. And people will move from one county to the other in a matter of a week. And now, the way we would, if we had that now, we would go out to a house and we wouldn't know someone was there. Let's say they wanted to move across the state to Rowan County. I'm just going to use that as an example. Now what would be the case is that if they popped up in Rowan, they may not even know they had a case in Craven County. We may not even know that they're in Rowan County, but if someone called and reported on them on Rowan, they could go look in that system and say, oh, Craven County was working with this family as recently as October, I'll just use today, October 16th, 2017. Same way if it's another family that came to us. So what it really does, it helps us, to better extend our coverage and better to provide services not only for, families in Craven County, but also throughout the state, and helps us limit our liability.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next are department managers planning flood mitigation. Reed Whitesell?
We opened bids on October 4th. Gentleman's tall. For the elevation of 3 houses that are included in your FY15 Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, which is a program that you've been receiving funds for on an annual basis, funded through the National Flood Insurance Program as amended. And the purpose of the program is to reduce, through mitigation, either acquisition or elevation, to reduce the chance of future flooding. And all three of these structures you're awarding now have had a significant amount of damage since 1996. In fact, the contract amounts, I'm sure of two of them, are less than the collective damages since 1996. And that's notwithstanding any future damage that might be expected. So there are various opinions about federal programs, but in my experience, the flood mitigation assistance program is positive because it does have a net positive fiscal effect on the federal budget and the National Flood Insurance Program. But there were 6 bidders, which continues to encourage us for these programs. We just finished closing out your FY13 program. We have one house that was just completed in the FY14 program, which we'll close that out this quarter. These 3 houses, when they're through, will close out your FY15 program and your FY16 program. The grant agreement is circulating in Raleigh, and hopefully we'll get that within the next 30 days and can start on that program. That's an additional 5 or 6 structures, I think. This project is a 5-unit project. One person is withdrawn, and we're soliciting to change the remaining unit from elevation to reconstruction. It's not structurally feasible to repair. That request is in Raleigh. So these 3 awards are the final awards that you've got on your plate right now for elevation. There were 6 bidders, again, which continues to encourage us. The bid range is very good. You have a copy of the preliminary bid tabulation with your agenda, and we're recommending that all 3 awards go to the low bidders of record. 2 units, the Brinson and Long unit in Bridgeton, and the Gordon unit on Bryce's Creek Road would go to B&B Construction of Chocowinity, who has worked here for a number of years, and very reputable, good contractor. And the 3rd house would go to a local minority contractor, J.E. Dillahunt, at 151, 120. And he's, again, that is a minority contractor from New Bern who we've worked with quite a bit as well. So we are comfortable with the low bids. They're all within range of the other bidders. And our recommendation is to go ahead and award these as presented.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Okay, discussion. Let me just start off by saying that all these people had flood insurance, and they've had losses that were incurred of over 50% of their home. Is that correct?
Collectively, yeah, a couple of them have had single, I think in Fran, had single events, contents and damage that were in excess of 50% of the value, yes.
And basically, the government feels that by doing this, it would help them rather than paying off debt all the time.
That's correct. I mean, if you, we do this on an annual basis, and when you start looking at your repetitive loss list, it's amazing how much gets, here, particularly in Beaufort County, which has had 8 or 9 flood events since 1996, how many collective damages there are in these houses. And just elevating them, especially with your freeboard requirement, just gets them completely, pretty much completely. It would have to be catastrophic for them to receive any damage.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be worthwhile for the public to know that, the insurance that is being paid by these homeowners is maybe around $300 a year. For one of these properties, the improved value is $47,000, and we're going to be spending $59,000 for the construction. For another property, the improved value is $78,000, and we're going to be spending $120,000 for construction. And the third, the improved value is $108,000, and we'll be spending $151,000. This is not your fault, obviously.
No, now, that is, I assume you're talking about current appraised tax value.
Correct.
Which is not the same as, replacement value. So there's different ways of looking at it. From the owner's point of view, that's I mean, if he's looking at getting out of harm's way, if he was looking at doing it himself, yes, you're right. I mean, it probably would be, no, I'm going to move out and find another place, but the funds are available. Yeah, in my experience, there is a disparity sometimes between the value you're looking at and how much money you're putting into it. On the other hand, the post-rehab, the post-elevation value of the house would be significantly higher. I would assume that it would be as much as what we're putting into the house. Some of these houses sell within
Rita,
a year or two.
I think you're making my point here, is that for a modest amount of $300 a year in insurance, these folks are going to have a realization of a property value increase that they will be able to enjoy should they be able to sell that house,
Yes,
that the taxpayer is paying for,
but
that individual will be able to receive.
that's correct. But if the house isn't mitigated, then the taxpayer's still going to pay for the collective damages going
And
forward the
my
next.
point here is that this really is a public policy that needs to be reviewed. I mean, this is 503 years' worth of insurance payments for that one house. The taxpayer never gets made whole. But it is a windfall to the individual homeowner, should they decide to sell the house after they move out of it, or after
That is
after
correct.
the repair is done.
That is correct.
One of the things recently with the revisions that they've made in the flood insurance program, some of these individuals are getting policy premiums now $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year. So it is changing, that climate is changing, because they're below the BFE and they're always getting flooded. So the flood insurance program has started that process. Now, if they've recently purchased it, they're under that $3,000-$4,000 range of flood insurance. If it's been something they've owned for a while, the flood insurance program was only raising their premiums no more than 25% a year.
And if this is not a second home.
Actuarial rates. So if it takes 10 years to get actuarial, that's what they're doing. So.
I think that will change. I mean, with what happened this year, I don't see that continuing to happen. I continue to see flood insurance go through the roof, as a matter of fact. I continue to go, where I live at Carolina Beach, it affects people's decisions to stay or improve their house or leave and go into Wilmington, because the flood insurance payments are more affordable than their HOA
I
fees.
guess the point is that I'd like to see, and I know there's nothing this board can do about this, but if there's some way, an individual ought not be able to take a windfall by virtue of the government taxpayer making an improvement on their home. So the home is improved, they sell the house, they then enjoy a windfall. I would like to see, some sort of a standard set so that whatever benefit is being given to that homeowner, that it's returned to the federal government, to the taxpayer.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we had a recent situation with an FY13 house where there was a significant investment, and the house was literally on the market while we were finishing it. As you know, the block grant program, as much as people don't like it on a tax dollar basis or an income basis, there is a promissory note, and there's a deed of trust, which you all are familiar with. And if the people, if it's a 10-year forgiven note and they sell it the first year, then 90% of that grant amount comes right back to Craven County as program income, part of which would go back to the state, but you can keep $25,000 a year. I have no problem writing a letter for the chairman, if you all discuss it at your convenience during a work session, asking the state whether we can put that provision in this program in Craven County. It is not a requirement, and I'm not sure how it could be looked upon in FEMA Region 4. But I'm very supportive of it personally. I happen to agree with you.
Well, Reed, you bring an interesting idea to bear here, and maybe if we could take that money and then help out another home
Exactly.
and use those funds to assist another one of these.
I'll have, you know, if Jack's okay with it, and Don, I'll just have them discuss it internally, and we'll try to bring something back to
Thank
you
you.
maybe this winter
Mr.
to
Chairman.
address that issue.
Yes, Commissioner Sampson.
I was just sitting here listening at the conversation. I'm thinking about people who lost everything. And then we sit up here and talk about how they're gonna make money off something. You haven't counted this suffering that these people have endured and how these people were displaced and the families were displaced and how much problem they're going through here. I know I pay flood insurance. I know how high my flood insurance is. And I know I've been flooded. I know I woke up with water in the house and lost everything. I know how suffering is for people who be caught up in these storms. It's not their fault that they're caught up in these storms. And people being caught up all over the world, suffering. I tell you, people don't realize when they're gonna get back home, lost everything. And I know how that feels somewhat. I don't know how long these people be out of their home. I know I was out of mine for about 6 months or something, but some people have been out years.
Some people have been out for Matthew
We
for a
can,
year.
discuss how much money they're gonna make. They probably couldn't even fix up the front door with the money they have now, because they probably lost everything. And I just can't see how we can feel comfortable. If taxpayers helping each other out, I see people go out there, and I know people come to Newbern and fix people homes up for nothing. This Baptist church that comes around and fix up homes for nothing and don't ask anything for return. And we're sitting here supposed to be representing the citizens. We talking about the citizens making money off the deal. And we're not counting the suffering that they have gone through here, and how much trauma they have with the family. And we're really speaking of funds that's being expended to help people, and help so many other people. So many other people getting deals, and we're not even concerned about how people really needs help. And I know a lot of people, when the flood was in my community, how people were displaced and how people were suffering, how people had to depend on each other. It's kind of hard to depend on people, because sometimes when you need them, they have something else to do. So you got to go somewhere else, or you either stay there and suffer. I've been in the suffering mode a long time, and I know how it feels when you go through situations such as this.
Mr. Sampson, my point would be, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Sampson, my point would be that under this current program, there are a limited amount of funds. And with those limited funds, we can help 3 families. If in turn those 3 families decided to just go ahead and flip their house and sell it and make a windfall, that's fine for them. But what it does then is it takes away from money that could possibly be deployed to help a 4th family. And I think it's that 4th family that we're thinking about here. So what I'm talking about is trying to do what we can for the best number of people in our community.
We don't want to cut some people short.
Well, I don't think that we are, but what we're doing is we're making them whole. We're saying that their property value is going to be what it is. But they shouldn't be able to enjoy some sort of a windfall off of this program. And if we can help out a 4th family through this process, well then, to me, that's a win-win situation.
Just to clarify for Commissioner Sampson, because I know he's very familiar with the block grant program, which is for very low-income people, basically the last 3 programs we ran. The promissory note and deed of trust is in there for that program. It doesn't matter whether they're, they or disaster-related recovery program like the one we discussed in the first public hearing, those people that we elevate or reconstruct, that we talked about a half hour ago, if they sell the house during the first year, they're paying the money back. I mean, and that's a low-income housing program. So what Commissioner Dacey's speaking to is basically, this is a higher income type program. Most more people in the FMA program tend to have higher incomes than the HMGP disaster program. So there is a precedent, Commissioner Sampson, for avoiding a windfall profit and trying to help somebody else with that money that comes back to the county. That's, I
I'm
think
aware
that's
of
it.
both types of programs, because I've been involved in these programs for, I know 20 years, maybe more, because I was involved in one of them. So I know about what's going on, and I've been there. I know about the suffering that goes on too. And I know about how people feel when they can't take care of their family.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor say nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Yeah, do you want me to draft something for the manager to bring, to just,
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad that Mr. Weitzel brought our attention to this issue. It was something that the board had done, I think, 5 or 6 years ago to look at those lower income programs, and we put this same standard into effect then, which is something that I think we were all very proud of when we did it, and I'm glad that he reminded us of that issue, and I'd like to see him try to work something out on this program as well.
Well, if all the commissioners were in agreement, I would go along with it, but I think we have to find out if, is there any other discussion on this?
All right, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just explain to me again, okay? Which program has the payback already in it?
the block grant program, which is no longer extant in North Carolina. So all that money goes to infrastructure. But the program we just discussed, the block grant DR, or Disaster Recovery Initiative, is very specific about the windfall situation, that, you know, the assistance is provided in the form of a deferred, what's called a deferred forgiven loan. So if we spent $95,000 doing a small little 2-bedroom house, or somebody whose house is completely, substantially damaged, then, and they sign the note, and we go ahead and do the reconstruction, then if they sell that house after the 5th year, they still owe 40, there's a recorded deed of trust, and it's a lien. And it's happened a number of times in the past that people have defaulted on these by, you know, selling them early. The board, in its discretion, to speak to Commissioner Sanson's point, there's a hardship. For some reason, whatever, the board has also, is in the past, asked the state to just, you know, forgive the loan. You know, if there was a death in the family and the heirs couldn't take care of the property, ever had no interest in selling it. But normally, that money comes back to the county as program income. Some of it stays here, some of it goes back to Raleigh. That codicil is not, or qualification is not in either your HMGP program, which is disaster-related, or the program we just awarded bids for. You just awarded bids for, the FMA program. It is basically a straight grant. And the only, there is a deed recorded, but it is that the property, that whoever the owner is now or in the future will maintain flood insurance, so in perpetuity, and there can't be any development below the finished floor. That's it. That makes it a very easy program to sell in some cases, because the people, right or wrong, and I think most of us here would agree that it's bad public policy to allow people to get that kind of assistance and turn around and just flip the house, as Commissioner Dacey spoke to. So that is the issue we're talking. We're basically saying make your flood assistance programs consistent with your low-income housing programs. with a populace of people, or a data set of people that's more, it's more affordable to than the low-income people.
All right, thank you. Thank you,
Would
Mr. Chairman.
anybody object to that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment on it. I'm not saying that I object to it, I'm just saying that, who are you gonna talk to about this? 'Cause
Well,
you're
that's-
talking about federal flood money, and somebody, how about somebody that's lived in the house and been paying $5,000 a month? I mean, a year, excuse me. I mean, so the complications of doing this, and homeowners crying out, well, I've been paying my flood insurance money, and in a perfect world, the rate, I mean, the monthly premiums for the flood insurance should cover the program, which it doesn't because of these catastrophic
Right.
hurricanes that we've been having and flood events. I mean, I'm willing to, you know, proceed with something, but I'm afraid you're just wasting your time.
Well, my dealings with FEMA creation, I'm not gonna say anything that might get me in trouble, but
I mean, because
I
ultimately,
will-
we're dealing, this is implemented through the state, right? I mean,
through
but
emergency management, that's
this
correct.
money is coming down from the federal government.
I
federal
almost think that
flood
you,
program.
yeah, I almost think you would find FEMA, given all all this stuff that's happened to them recently, everything from the wildfires in California to, now we're having to essentially bail out Puerto Rico, which was essentially bankrupt before the storm. You're talking about a lot of money, and FEMA might be more, they might listen to the idea better than people in Raleigh would.
Reed, are you familiar with Committee of 20?
Yes.
Willow, I can't think of her last name, the president of that organization. If I'm not mistaken, she's fighting that right now. What?
Willow Kelly.
Well, look, she's fighting that right now, I believe. I don't know how far she's gotten with it, but I do know that she's, you know, on
Well-
top of that. But it wouldn't hurt for us if we wanted to.
No, I'll try to clarify it in terms, also in terms of Mr. Tyson's point of view. You know, if there's been a flood insurance hardship historically, like a lot of damages, and they've been paying exorbitant fees, and really they just want the improvement so they could walk away from the house with a little. I suppose you could address that issue, but the way I look at it personally, after 30 years of doing this, is that it is a windfall, any way you look at it. If you put $100,000 into a house and somebody sells it 6 months after the work has been done, and they're making $70,000 or $80,000 out of pocket, that is a windfall, and it is not the goal of the program. And I think people.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Yeah, well, there might be.
Why can't you look into how many people has done this?
I don't know whether anybody has, Commissioner Sampson. All I'm saying
So
is
it's
that
been a windfall.
you have set a precedent with your low-income housing programs already to avoid windfalls. It's
I
there.
understand that, but I'm saying, if you're gonna do a study, see how many people has received a windfall. You're just talking about one person or two people. That's not enough to change the whole program.
We can
Well,
probably do a little research on that ourselves.
Why don't we do some research on this and could get back to us on it, okay?
I'd be happy
Thank you.
to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the ABC board has a little presentation they'd like to make.
And we're not talking about a half an hour presentation
They
or
were
anything
stuck,
like that,
they
are
were,
we?
they were stuck in traffic, so.
It was of informational purpose only, so I'll just hand these out so that the members can, at a later date, and I sincerely apologize.
Would you make that available to the clerk, please? Give them to the clerk.
Okay, sure, we'll do that. Okay, sure, we'll do that. And along with that is our audit, which you must do, and you have the travel notification, which is the same as the county's travel. We will be back to see you here, and I would like to say publicly, sir, that in our quest for looking for new property, that the board particularly yourself, sir, and Mr. Sampson, and Mr. Tyson, and the county manager have been fantastic and saved us much time and a lot of money, and we'll be back to you on that. Talking about money, Mr. Chairman, we have with us today a check from your ABC board, in addition to the money that we provide each quarter. A check here for $557,293.55 to be exact. That plus the other over almost $300,000. So you had a very good year, and we thank you for your support.
Well, that one you're going to take, huh?
Finance Director?
And thank you very much.
I don't want to hold on to it too long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Not that we're going to come late anymore, sir.
Thank you very much to the ABC Board. That's tax money coming back to us.
It's amazing how a check can make all his tardiness all that much more welcome.
Okay, next on the agenda are appointments
Mr.
pending.
Chairman.
Yes.
Item B under ABC Board Matters for Mr. Shagnon and his staff leaves. They do need annually to have their travel policy adopted as state
okay.
law.
I believe your travel policy is
Move-
the same as ours, isn't it?
Move for the adoption.
Well, it is, sir,
Second.
but it's in the hands of Ms. Nguyen.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is mimicked after ours. We worked with them several years ago, and it's the same policy you approved last year.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carnage.
Appointments pending, current, upcoming. Adult Home Advisory Committee. Tom MacGyver is ill and will not be returning. Myra Bergman, I believe we had a letter of resignation. Ruth Swank, we have a letter of resignation on file. Rico Evans, we have a resignation on file. Susan Mathis, I spoke to her on the phone. She is going to resign at present, this time and maybe return later, but she's going to resign. So that takes care of that. We've got to make up 1, 2, 3, 4 of them anyway. Havelock Planning Board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Marion Sykes. He has agreed to serve.
Okay. Acclimate, appointed by acclamation. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Where we stand on that?
We're still waiting.
Still waiting? Okay, I guess we're still waiting. New Bern Planning and Zoning Board.
Mr. Chairman, I talked with Mr. Marshall Ballard from the Rocky Run community. There is an application in your agenda packet, and I would ask that the board approve his appointment.
Okay, approved by acclamation. And I want to thank Commissioner Jones, because I probably would have had to call another 150 people to get that appointment. Thank you very much. Jury Commission. Is that our appointment, or,
Yes, and you did reappoint Mr. Muse, and afterwards he
and he
contacted us.
decided not to do it?
No, he moved out of county.
So we have to look for somebody.
Yes, and the clerk of court has to have that person in place by December 5th.
Okay. All right, I'll get to work on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can it come from any district? Is it-
I believe so.
Yes.
Upcoming appointments, firemen's, this is for November, Firemen's Relief Fund, Clean Sweep Committee, EMS Advisory Council, Health Board, Havelock Library. County Attorney's report is not here.
I'm going to handle it, Mr. Chairman, if you don't
Okay.
mind. I will freely admit, I'm not an attorney, but I do have Geico auto insurance, so I'll give it my best shot this morning. County Attorney Jimmy Hicks, if he was here, would present an offer previously received and tentatively approved by Craven County in the city of New Bern, an amount of $1,500 for property located at 1114 William Street inside the city of New Bern. It is a tax foreclosure property. Total taxes and costs at time of foreclosure were $3,395.98. The current tax value is $4,000. This offer was advertised and there were no upset bids. In attachment 9 in your agenda package, you have a proposed resolution, the deed and lien waiver, and it is recommended at this time that the board give final approval of the sale and adopt the resolution. Subject to the final closing calculations, estimate Craven County would be the beneficiary of about $1,300 upon the completion of the sale.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Noes? Ayes have it. County Manager's Report.
All right, now where I'm comfortable here. Mr. Holton, would you, or Mr. Hodges, would you, I just wanted to, I believe a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I will subscribe to that today. Last Tuesday, we had our Connect with Craven open house. I just want to share with you and the audience about 10 pictures of the interaction county staff had with the public. As you can see, this is our Cooperative Extension Department meeting, talking about what they do. Solid waste, I thought Maylene did a great job of what is and is not recyclable. I don't know if you got back there, but that's certainly a hot button issue that's going to be coming forward as those recycling companies are going to be more stringent with what goes in. Kind of a picture down the hall. Certainly had a good crowd. We had about 500 people. Now, some people came in before 4, were so excited that we didn't actually get a count on some who came before that time. But, you know, I think there was a good turnout. Obviously, we'd hoped for a little bit more. We certainly learned some things if we ever do this event again that we could try. But I think the feedback has been positive so far. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen here, these individuals signed up for our Code Red system, which I thought was a really neat touch, so we can communicate with them. Commissioners had a great booth. I think each of you had an opportunity to spend some time in the booth. I think some of you stayed more than even your allotted time. I think, again, feedback was good there. Our lab services, they brought some of their equipment in. Restaurant inspections through environmental health. Our sheriff's department actually had 4 different booths. They had an outside presence for some of their vehicles. They had a really nice setup of what their SWAT teams and their special response teams, and on the inside what the jail and our electronic monitoring program complete. Mr. Don, actively showing someone the James City project there, but I think you guys did a great job with your booth, had a lot of information. As you guys are aware, our planning inspection department does so many different things that aren't planning inspections. It was good for them finally to get to talk about it a little bit. Outside, Mr. Hodges did excellent representation of practical tools that the county use. As you can see in the foreground here, we have Bob, big old bus. That's our mobile command center. I can tell you some people were very surprised the county had an asset like this. I'm not, because I've actually been in it before, and it's a very useful tool if you're in an emergency or somewhere where you otherwise have trouble having a centralized command center. We had our partners there, our fire and rescue squads. Thank those folks for taking the time. Thought it was neat to have some of those, and those are obviously things that county tax dollars support, our sheriff's department and some of our county equipment here. I promised to put this picture up. It is for a reason. This is the young lady that beat my score on how to be a county manager game. I told her I wasn't sure anybody would beat me. I played it one cycle just to have a score of what a county manager should, and she beat mine fairly handily. She was the only person that beat my score. So if you're ever looking for a county manager, you need to
shot.
Yeah, you need to find that young lady. Yeah, but she did a great job, and she beat my score. So
Is she for hire?
she's a teacher. So I will tell you, she is a very smart teacher. But again, I'm just thankful for the commissioners for coming to our event and attending, and the county staff who helped work on it, Gwen and Jean, Craig, Dennis, Don, and the folks who came and worked the booths. I think the feedback was positive, just like it's been when we've gone to the districts and had our district meetings. I think we got sort of the same feedback. So
Yeah, if I can interrupt you for a minute.
sure, yes, sir.
I have to say, I think we really have to thank the county manager, the assistant county manager, Madam Clerk, and also Amber, and
Yes.
all of the directors. But, you know, I think that the thing that people got out of this was being able to talk to the people that actually helped them in the different departments. I think they enjoyed it. I think the people in the departments enjoyed it besides. And I think it was a great way of transparency and getting the people to understand what the county actually does. And I think that you should be commended for what you did.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I certainly appreciate that. Okay, moving right along, I wanted to update the board on our Narcan program. Back in September, the board allocated $5,000. We have set the protocols in place with our emergency medical director, who is in the emergency medicine side with Stanley. Those protocols have now been approved. We have approved the training program, and we have a go-live date of Narcan and sheriff's cars of December 1st. That will allow for there is a bit of CPR training and Narcan training. It's very limited, but it has to be done to cycle fully through and have the program done. December 1st would be our start date. I would tell you the sheriff's embraced it. He has certainly been willing to participate. I met with 2 of his captains Friday, and they are ready to go. Okay? And just to make the board aware, we have communicated with some of the smaller police departments. At this time, I've only got a letter from the town of Bridgeton. They've asked to participate. Obviously, they did not budget any money for this, so I would consider their hardship to be there financially. So at this time, we're working with them, have not heard from some of the others, but we'll continue to reach out for that. After our meeting today, at hopefully around 11 o'clock, we'll be having a ribbon cutting at our water plant down on Lewis Farm Road. It's an exciting time. We've been working on this project since the mid-2000s. And it has certainly commanded a lot of staff time and commissioner time and others' time as we've moved through it. The neat thing, and many of you don't know, but maybe Commissioner Tyson and myself, but that water plant is already filled the pipes in Township 7, 6, and 5, and you are currently, if you live in that area, using that water. Rusty asked me what I thought, and I said, I guess it must be good because I didn't notice. And that's certainly what you want to have there, that the water transition had happened. Finally, Mr. Chairman, we had talked at the last meeting about a need for a work session. I had some dates for the board to check calendars and see if we could get together. I have 3 dates. I have November the 2nd, which is a Thursday, November the 3rd, which is a Friday, and November 6th, which is a Monday, which is your regular commissioner meeting. My intention there was to have you come early and meet before that. But currently, I think, Mr. Chairman, you and I were free when we talked. Those 3 days are completely available. Is there a preference to the board?
The 3rd or the 6th for me.
3rd or 6th?
I would prefer the 6th.
6 before the meeting?
Anyone else? Got 2 at 6.
I haven't looked at my calendar.
I'd probably prefer the 6th, too.
3 at 6.
All right, 4 at 6, there we go. What time would you like to start, Mr. Chairman? Would you like to do it earlier in the day and go home, or would you like to come and stay all the way through?
Let's get a,
Suppose we met at 3 o'clock. Would that be good?
I think you might even meet at 3:30.
3:30?
That'll give you, it's just to get it so you're not having a lot of downtime.
Is 3:30 we're all right with everybody?
Yes, I am.
Okay, 3:30. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report unless the board has something for me. Thank you.
Commissioners' reports. Commissioner Tyson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to congratulate, once again, Carolina East Medical Center for the 2nd consecutive year being the only 5-star rated Medicare and Medicaid hospital in North Carolina. And this rating is done by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and there's a metric of some 53 bullet points that they use to determine this, and very, very happy to see them get this award and being the only hospital in the state to get it. Doesn't mean they're a perfect hospital. There's always room for improvement, and I do believe that the staff over there is constantly trying to improve. So I'd also like to congratulate my friends with Craven Clean Sweep for the good turnout that they had Saturday before last, and we put a dent in litter that seems to constantly be flowing in our county, so. But we'll continue to try to keep it cleaned up as best we can. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Just to let you know, I attended a picnic by the road gang that cleans up Broad Creek Road, and I had an opportunity to, give our appreciation for all the commissioners and what they do. And they were very happy about that. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several things to bring before the board. As I announced at our last meeting, I attended Dover Fireman's Day. They had a great day, great support from the community. One of the highlights of that day, though, was Mayor John Weatherington received the Order of the Longleaf Pine. It was presented by Senator Sanderson, who came, and also Representative Shiley and Representative Graham, and their spouses were in attendance. And so we're very appreciative for Senator Sanderson pushing that effort and recognizing Mayor Weatherington for his service to Craven County and especially to the town of Dover. Also, while I was there, I received a number of folks who came to me and had conversation about the drug problem. I think that, with the meetings that we've held and the information I think this board is trying to put out about our concern, folks are speaking up now more. And I have one gentleman who has been a part of the community for many years, came to me. He lost his son just a few months ago to an overdose. And he was identifying some locations within the town of Dover that he asked me to, relay on to our law enforcement. And since that time, the chairman and myself have received numerous calls, I think, from the Vanceburg area. They are really dealing with, it seems like at the present time, a lot of the ODs that are occurring in our county. And so the chairman and myself, as we've already mentioned it again, are working to have a meeting, a community meeting in the Vanceburg area to invite some of our law enforcement to come and to have a discussion for the folks over there and what we might be able to do. And the last thing I would just say, in hearing at this meeting and also other meetings that we've attended with our planning staff, the concern about the lack of disaster recovery activities for Matthew victims here in Craven County. There are a lot of folks that are at poverty level that live in the Vanceburg area that were affected by Hurricane Matthew. Many folks have been able to rebuild, but there are still many folks who haven't. And as you ride through, you still see some houses that are uninhabited. I was told of a story the other day of an individual who has been residing in a house over there that was flooded. And so we've got an urgent need, I think, right at our back door. It's right before us, and folks that are truly being affected. And, they were waiting and hopeful of disaster funds and coming. And so I'm very hopeful that we will be able to receive that $1 million, but definitely it's not going to go as far as it should. And so we need to be, I think, as a board, mindful of what we can do to continue. And I know planning staff is already doing it, to reach out and see if there are other funds available, whatever we might do to try to help these folks. The last comment I will make by that is, I think it is probably, we all know that at some point, at some time, that it's going to happen again for many of these folks over there, and that's the disturbing thing. It is occurring more often, and we can say why it's occurring, but everybody has a different opinion. But these folks are in harm's way, and we've got to be mindful of it. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Liner.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to piggyback on what you said on the staff for the event last Tuesday. It was superb. Nothing but great comments that came back after the event, emails that I've received. And I hope this board, whatever future boards look at, and the staff, that this becomes an event, regardless of when it is, every year, every other year, whatever. But it was well worth to let the public know what this county does and what we have available. Next, I'd like to pass out these flyers. American Legion Post 539 is part of Wreath Across America, and they're out there right now soliciting. The event will be taking place on December 16th at 12 o'clock at the New Bern National Cemetery. General Broughton will be the guest speaker. Last year, we laid 875 wreaths. It's nowhere near the amount of the graves that's in that cemetery, but it's a good start, and it's a great event. If you haven't been out there for it or seen it, if you're interested, if you would take a look and want to donate, we'd greatly appreciate it on that. Mr. Chairman, County Manager, the workshop, is the workshop going to be also in regards to the sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
then I won't say any more. Okay. Chairman, thank you, Mr.
Commissioner McCabe.
Yes, I had an opportunity to attend the Month Festival yesterday, and Saturday. And it was nice and cool. I had a good time. A lot of food, a lot of vendors, a lot of people, a lot of rides and helicopters and stuff like that. And it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed myself at the time I was there. Then I left and had somewhere to go. Also, on October the 28th of this month, I'm having a Harlow Community Night Out with the church department from 5 to 8 p.m. on that Saturday. And it's free games and food for all the kids who want to participate and come out and enjoy yourself. I'm glad to have you. Hope it'll be a wonderful day. And we also have the Harlow Tigers, which is the football team. They could be having something there earlier that day, but hopefully everybody will be able to participate and come out. Enjoy yourself. It's at the Harlow Community Center at 125 Godet School Road in Havelock, which is a Harlow area. So anyone would like to come and participate and you show up, you're quite welcome to come at that time. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sampson.
Yes, I was able to go to the Month Fest Saturday. And I tried to get down there a little early to find a parking space. So couldn't find no parking space. I had, my daughter came down, she went with me. So she said, well, let's go ahead and pay $5 and park. So we pulled in behind the old Marks building by the church there. Pulled in there and parked. You got the last parking space. But it was so much down there, more than ever been to the Month Fest. They had a great time down there and got plenty of exercise. Like people were everywhere. I got down to the end of Trent River Bridge down there going over James City. Traffic was lined all the way back in James City, so much traffic. That light stopping, and they had stopped that light and the traffic kept blocking up. And you had to be careful how you walk with so many people. You bumping into each other. I'm glad they didn't have no fights down there because it was crowded down there. But it was very successful. I never seen one like that before, and had all kind of cars down there. I'm not used to new cars, so I was enthused like the children, because my car just hadn't been new for a long time since I got the last one. That's the last one, was the newest one I had. But I tell you, they did a great job, whoever planned that Month Fest. It was outstanding. They had something to build off, because I know the Month Fest in the past, it's been growing, and that was the best one by them being able to build on the other Month Fest. They just get better and better. And people, I haven't heard about no fight down there, so that made it even more outstanding because it was very orderly and very enjoyable. I don't know how many was able to attend, but if you didn't attend, you missed the treat. Also, I attended the Walt Bellman celebration at the on Harlow Pollard and Jones Street. It's right in the corner of 3th Street, Pollard, Jones. I forget the name of the other street, but they have a tall statue up there. And we had a great turnout. And people really enjoyed what was being done out there. Wake the community up, let people know that no matter where you come from, you were able to exceed if you just try and get a good education. You got to have a good education, no doubts about it, to be able to succeed in this society. Very few people that succeed without an education. I haven't met one yet that have received and not had an education, exceeded, but had not had an education. And the city had worked with this program for quite a while, and had a lot of donors that was out there. And the hospital gave us a nice grant. I'm just so happy that it happened, that we can show our young people that they are able, no matter what place they come from, what family they come from, that is enough out here that can make a difference, that they can succeed in life. They have to do something themselves. They had to really get a good education. And all start out like in the early years. Some kids can start at 2 and 3. Some kids so smart. Some start at 4 and 5. And some don't never start. But I'm hoping that this new program that we have will reach back and get these kids that were lost and bring them up so they'll be able to succeed in our society. I want this society to be one of the best society ever was, that everybody will have a chance to make something out of themselves if they want to. And another thing I like to talk about is the fair that the county had. I never seen one in the county such as the one we had the other day. And it was outstanding. I like to give the staff and our county manager great send-off on how successful this program was. I have not seen it in any other county that the county would have all their facilities out there that people would be able to see for themselves and know for themselves that they have to get service from the county that they will know where to go to. And I've never seen a group of people work so closely together. And they really deserve an ovation for the job that they have done in this county and how they put on a great act in transferring this program to a successful program and meeting the citizens. Some citizens had never been to some of the places that they saw out in our convention center. And I'm just really enthused that we got a chance to show it to the people because they are taxpayers. All the people are taxpayers in this county that are able, even if they buy soda, they're taxpayers. So we just are proud of our citizens. I believe we have one of the best counties in the whole 100 counties because we work close together. Even sometimes we don't get along that well together, but we come together in the time of need. That's what counts. And that's everything I have.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. The Allies for Cherry Point were able to meet last week, and I wanted to just give you a brief update on that. First of all, we received a legislative update from the folks over at Ward and Smith that do a fine job on behalf of the organization, Jamie Norman in particular. And he let us know that the National Defense Authorization Act does provide for $15 million to help support the lift fan, which is, of course, that component of the new F-35 variant that will be used by the Marine Corps. And then that facility for the lift van would be housed down at Cherry Point at FRC East. And we're very thankful for that. Of course, the state has come up with $3 million in support of that program already. The bill itself has still got to go to the House Senate Conference Committee and then get acted upon, but we're hopeful that that provision will stay in the bill. It's received the support from our senators as well. Then we were also provided with a presentation from Craven County Schools on how military families are affected in our school systems and what sorts of things might be able to be done to help ease some of the concerns that students have that are transferring in the middle of the year. And as a matter of fact, our school system is now working with a national system to address these issues. And, you know, it's stuff that you really don't think about that often. If you've got a child that may come in the middle of football season, is there some way for that kid to get involved in the football program? Oftentimes, there just aren't ways for kids to be able to make friends very quickly in the middle of a school year. So they've been able to identify groups of students that would be willing to kind of take on other students that are transferring in, make certain that they've got a friend, somebody that they can sit with. All those sorts of things make this a much better community for a military, from a military perspective. So I just want to thank Superintendent Doyle for all of her efforts in making certain that our staff is on top of this issue, and she's done a tremendous job already. Then on Thursday, the 26th, the Southeast Regional Partnership will be meeting, and if there are any commissioners that have got any thoughts or concerns about economic development in the community that you'd like to have raised at that meeting, I'm more than happy to do it. I will be attending that meeting again on Thursday, the 26th. Then also, I'd like to announce that on Wednesday, the 25th at 4 o'clock, I will be holding a town hall session, listening session here in this room, assuming it's available, county clerk, and I think it is. So we'll do that from 4 until 5 o'clock on Wednesday, the 25th. And then last but not least, commissioners, if you've got a few minutes, I believe Commissioner Liner and Commissioner Jones, the chairman, has asked us to kind of talk about the resolution on the Equal Rights Amendment that's been presented to us. If you've got a couple minutes after this meeting, I'd like to get together and just talk about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jeff, I understand you've got a young lady and gentleman that you'd like to introduce?
And I'll just be very brief. I know that y'all have to get to your ribbon cutting. But who I have with me is Ty Frost, the Director of Facilities at Carolina East, Janice Thompson, who's the Human Resources Manager at Mullen, and Meredith Dillon, who is the Corporate Sales Manager at Doubletree. And we're all part of the Leadership Craven class through the New Bern Chamber of Commerce. If you're not familiar with that class, what that is, it's lasts from, I think, September that we have our open retreat in September, and our closing retreat will be in May. And during that period, we'll be learning more about what Craven County and the opportunities they have to offer individuals, and just trying to broaden our mindset and our knowledge of Craven County. I know for me, going to be a future resident of Craven County and also working, just newly employed here since January. So that's a little bit about our class, and we have a mixture of public and private sector employees. We have a captain of the command patrol with New Bern Police Department. We have a small business owner. We have employees from Bosch and the Toyota dealership in New Bern. So that's a little bit about our class. You may see individuals attending this class throughout the that time period. They're here today because they have to do something. We have to go do certain events and accumulate points, and this helps them accumulate points. So, Jack, I will let Kevin know at the chamber if someone plans to attend, try to get in touch with you in case you want to, recognize them during the meeting.
Well,
Any questions? We'll be happy to answer them.
I want to thank you for being in attendance, and I hope you get a lot of points for this. It was mentioned about opioid, and we had the caravan, and I just want to bring you up to date that the county manager and I are going to be getting together to organize a meeting in the future with the committee that we had to plan out what we're going to do from this point on. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. I also was reading in the papers lately that with all the hurricanes we've had all over the United States and Puerto Rico, that FEMA's running out of money, so if you're looking for money from FEMA, we might have a problem. We have a ribbon-cutting ceremony, so I think I will quit now and call for adjournment of the meeting. So moved.
Recess.
Recess, that's right, recess.
Move to recess and re-adjourn up at the water plant.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.